welcome to Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin, and this is the programme where you can have your property-related questions answered by our team of experts. Joining me today are Kam Dovedi, property investor, author, mentor, and founder of Premier Property Group. Welcome.
That's great to be here, Stephen.
Good to see you again. And John Howard, property developer, author, public speaker, owner of estate agencies, and all things to do with property, I think.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll take that.
Well, welcome to you. And,
thank you.
Good to see you. Good trip in from Ipswich.
Very good. Just an hour on the train.
Just an hour on the train.
Yep.
Now, for our viewers that don't know why he's just said that, is because there was an article in the papers that's saying it was 2 hours from London.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the top places to visit, though, this summer, didn't it?
Well, I saw the picture and it looked absolutely lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, there we are. So let's get on with the questions. And Kam, you're first. Could the panel tell me if it is possible to build a buy-to-let portfolio and turn it into my personal pension plan?
Well, I can say that as a guarantee, 100% yes, because I suppose I'm a living example of that. So yes, you can, and it's a great way to start. To be fair, one of the challenges that people have is they're quite fearful of getting into property, keeping the conversation honest. And one of the things that really help to reduce that fear, what I've found, is having an entry level that you can just jump into. So buy-to-lets done properly in the right areas where your purchase prices are lower purchase prices. So specifically what we look at right now is 160k or less, and ranging from anywhere between 40,000 to 160k. It's a very easy entry level to jump in and test property and get the bug for it.
Tell me, this question of putting the buy-to-let portfolio into a pension, are there not restrictions on being able to do that?
Great question, Stephen. So for clarity, when I'm discussing property as a pension, we're not discussing traditional pensions. So what I mean is using the property as a vehicle to be your own personal pension.
Got it.
Independently, right? So we're adding value to that property, we're getting income from that property, and it's a medium to long-term plan, which works really well. And it's worked really well for many people. Of course, you've got to navigate through the process, but you can learn to do that. That's not really a challenge, and it's a great way to step in for sure.
But taking a longer term view of property, it has to be a great investment, doesn't it? And
what I would say, when you say about traditional pensions, someone's buy-to-let portfolio like yours has probably performed better than a pension would have done, and if you look from 2007, property prices have now gone up 30% since to the height of 2007, 2008, and then it dropped, but they've gone back up 30% more than what they were in 2007. But of course, it is a micro market, isn't it? So you've got to be careful where you go. I've got properties that I bought in 2008-9 that still haven't gone back up to where they were then. So you do have to be careful, and I'm meant to be an expert. So you do, across the UK. So you have got to be careful. You've got to do your research. But I think when you say, 40 to 160 as purchasing is a great point, really, because then that your return is going to be decent yield. In other words,
and you're quite right. I mean, it's people have got into property, normal people. Not people like us. I can't. Well, you're probably normal, but people like us. We're not normal.
I like to think I'm normal
because what I mean by that is the normal population don't really look at property, and you get accountants and other professional people in realms saying that think of it as a long-term investment. But what they don't do is what we do. What I mean by we're not normal is that we look at property as a business, and it doesn't matter if it's your first one. Or your 100th one.
Agree. It's got to be treated as a business.
Yeah, and when you're treating it as a business and you're putting those systems into place, for example, we have a bar system, which we might discuss later anyway, if we get time for that. But where every single property project that we do it with no money in, thinking of it being no money in right from the beginning. So basically, you have a property portfolio that's creating income for you. You're having a better life. You've got security. You can continue your job, you can become full-time property investor, whatever you want to be doing, but you've got the security of having a choice, and the buy-to-let allows you to do that. Done properly, though.
Well, again, it's thinking out of the box a little bit, really, isn't it? Because even if it's not qualifying for a conventional pension with the tax breaks and things on that. Doesn't really matter. The overall effect is whether you make money at the end of a long period of time. Isn't it?
I'm working with a couple of Premiership footballers at the moment, and they're buying a house both buying a house every 3 months with a big deposit. And both of them say, "Oh, we want to do developing, John." I said, "Look, you don't need to be doing developing.
No.
You know, keep doing what you're doing, build up a big portfolio, and then when you retire, then you want to do, you know, slightly different things. That's great."
Yeah, I mean, high net worth individuals do get it once explained properly. You know, because see, this is the thing: many people call buy-to-let in the experienced property investor world, buy-to-let's very vanilla.
Well, it is.
Do you know what?
Cam? It is vanilla. It is vanilla, but it's very safe, and there's nothing wrong with safe. But it is vanilla.
Well,
it is vanilla.
Not the way we do it.
Well,
because vanilla is bog standard. The way we do it, if you got look,
it's a very safe investment, and there's nothing wrong with being safe, especially if you've got a good income every month, and you can put some towards another deposit. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, what I find very exciting, and definitely not vanilla, is the fact that you've got literally a cash dispenser, which has equity in it of 25% plus, where you've got none of your money left in it at some point, and it's throwing cash at you every single month.
But properties
really excites me.
Yeah, but properties do need to be repaired. Property market can go down. You know, you've got to show both sides of the coin.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not always win-win-win. And there are problems, and they get bad tenants and so on. But on the whole, you're absolutely right. But I do think that, you know, we need to show both sides of the
absolutely.
Of the coin.
So Marks and Spencers, when they get shoplifting, what happens? Do they close up shop or do they carry on? So as property investors, what do? If we get the odd bad tenant,
of course
we carry on.
No, of course not, Cam. But I'm just saying that I think we need to see both sides of the.
You're absolutely 100% right. We've got to look at both sides, but we also got to get on with it.
Yeah, sure.
And create a better life. Because when you're having a nice meal with your family and you understand that you've got a tenant who's treating their place like their home, and you're a good, responsible landlord, and you're sitting there and your income's coming and you're enjoying that, it makes you feel good. And that ain't vanilla. That's tutti frutti.
Okay. Well,
debatable.
If we're all feeling good, John, we'll move on to your first question.
I feel great having spoke to Cam. Come on.
Right.
What's tutti frutti? Let's go.
Yeah, you're looking more positive. What's going on with you?
I'm always positive. Don't worry about that.
John, here's something I know is close to your heart. There's been a lot of publicity around converting abandoned high street shops into residential properties post-COVID. Could the panel advise on what may be some of the snags or pitfalls in undertaking such conversions, especially for somebody relatively new to the conversion development business?
Okay, so yes, we're buying a number of commercial premises in high streets and near high streets to convert them into predominantly PD, permissive development, blocks of flats and so on. A few things you've got to be careful of. First of all, you know, if the premises doesn't have parking, just because it's in the town centre, it has not got parking, then it's okay to say, well, you know, under the rules we don't need to supply it, but can you sell those flats for good money without parking? Sometimes, you know, we have developments that we turn down because there isn't any parking, although planning wise you don't need any, because we need to be able to sell them. Just because you can do a commercial development in the town centre, convert it to residential, doesn't always mean you should. It might be in a very commercial area, it might be industrial area, in which case you will struggle to get the building societies and the lending institutions to lend to the end buyers. So you do have to be careful. If you're looking to convert the ground floor into residential, because it's a shop and under the new PD you can do that, you need to be careful, because if you've got a premises, you know, with no front garden, especially if you're going to convert to houses, no back garden, you have to question whether anyone else is going to want it. So, you know, just because you can do it doesn't always mean you should. Sometimes it is best left as commercial. So, you know, you've got to be careful.
With this conversion to residential, high streets in particular, aren't we going to end up in 5 years' time with everybody screaming and shouting and saying, wait a minute, there's no infrastructure here, there's no shops, there's no...
Well, what I would say is over the years, these local authorities have got themselves to blame, because they should have been allowing shops to be put back into houses, because a lot of them, of course, were houses back in 1900 and were made into shops. And they've buried their head in the sand because of the rates. They were getting big commercial rates, and under the government rules, the councils can keep the commercial rates themselves. So it's been big money for them. And the rate system's going to all change. I believe it's going to be based on a turnover basis or something. The government have got to sort that out. But you know, if they allowed these properties to be turned into residential for the last 20, 30 years, I've been turned down loads of times on commercial to residential before PD came in, then there wouldn't be such an avalanche now. It would have been a more phased, feathered approach, if you like. And at the end of the day, you know, my drive is getting worn out, my gravel drive, with white vans or whatever from Amazon and whoever it might be, delivering goods. And I'm sure, Cam, yours is the same. You know,
Yeah, so
hardly anyone is shopping in shops anymore.
But the first thing is, you've got Amazon now opening shops
Well, which is
test,
which is a
haven't you?
little bit odd, isn't it? Really?
Well, it is, yeah.
But yeah.
yeah, I mean, in terms of, you know, as John is saying, so, you know, we're doing a number of commercial projects as well. And what we're finding is that okay, so we're discussing what the pitfalls are, right? So first of all, these projects are working. Not everything is working. There is the probability that you've got to put into your favor for the projects to work. So we're doing commercial projects, we're doing conversions, we're doing projects without car parking. Actually, a great opportunity because it's outside the box and many people don't know how to do it. That's the thing. So you can pick up these opportunities.
Don't know how to do what, Cam?
How to convert without, you know, how to convert or how to develop where there isn't a car parking space. Where you know, you can convert. We're doing projects like this right now. So there's workarounds, is my point. But the pitfalls, coming back to your question, what are the pitfalls? So the first thing that we're constantly doing on any analysis is working out the numbers. The numbers are absolutely crucial. And I consult for a number of, what do you want to call them, ultra high net worth individuals as well. We do projects ourselves, and the one thing that we look at first is the numbers. So specifically, what do you look for? So the area that you're developing in, what is the end value of what you're looking to create? Is that flat or house or commercial unit, whatever it is it actually going to be worth the end value once you've put in the build cost? So specifically with the end values, we're looking at areas where a house is typically at least 80% within the house price index. So right now that's around £258,000. So what we're saying is, you want to create quick rules of thumb. So is your end value house going to be 200,000? Is your end value of the flat going to be around the 120K mark? If it's not, if it's in areas which are great for buy to let, where the property values might be 60, 70,000, we're discussing previously, with the development, you want to make sure the end value is there, because then it is a quick check to say, yep, let's move on and carry out further numbers. Another thing, pitfall that people get wrong is also about the numbers of build costs. So right now, build costs what we're finding is build costs are going up, material costs are spiraling, and I'm sure many of our viewers here are aware of this as well. So it's about using the right figures for the build costs. So typically, we'd be using for build costs, and these are very tight figures, these are wholesale figures, we were using £2,000 a square metre. Now we've upped that to 2.4 per square metre. Now that's quite a significant increase. However, we've got to go with the times, and if the project doesn't work on those figures, we're not doing that project. We're only going to do what actually works. So that's my second point of the end values. So you've got the end values, making sure you're in the right area, you're making sure you've got the right build costs, and then the third part of the numbers is actually assessing the project. How does it sit as it is? Does it wipe its face? Or if you're going to lose money on the project as it is while you're developing it, how much is that shortfall that you've got to come up with the cash input? Or is it going to actually create some income? So we always assess it on as it is. And then we look at the actual practical, slightly optimistic, but not too optimistic, you know, the practical of what you can actually build. What are you going to be getting planning for? So we'll calibrate it between 1 and 10. So where it's below the 8, we'll forget that. Where it's in the 8, 9, 10,
I'm totally lost. I don't know about you, but property is very, very simple.
Come and train with me. I'll show you how to do it.
Listen, I've been buying and selling property for 40 years, Cam. I don't need a lesson from you how to do it.
I've heard that so many times.
I've bought and sold over 4,000 properties, so I don't think we need a lesson from you.
I'm going to have to.
You've got to be careful of that. You know, when people say you've got 40 years experience, what you've got to be careful of is that they haven't been doing the same thing 1 year over 40 times.
We're going to have to stop you there. That's all we've got time for in this half of the show. So join me again after the break. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of a very exciting property question time with my 2 guests, Kam Dovedi and John Howard. Welcome back both. Kam, your second question, if we can move on from
I thought the last question was his as well, wasn't it, about the sound of things?
Oh, not together. He can go first. I don't mind.
No.
I'm okay.
No, you carry on.
It's okay.
Okay, gents, well, whichever you choose. Kam, could the experts give me some tips on buying property at the best possible price to start my own buy-to-let portfolio? Any advice would be appreciated. So, any tips, Kam?
Yeah, 88% of our property deals come from estate agents. So one of the keys is actually understanding the estate agent system. Now, what we've got to remember is that estate agents are always working for the vendor. However, working for the vendor doesn't necessarily mean the highest price, because there are people out there where they will get cold feet. They won't follow through with the deal. So in my experience, estate agents are looking for a good price for the vendor, but they're also looking for people that understand the system and are going to have a follow through. So learning getting into the mindset of an estate agent on how they work and how you can help them as well while you're helping the vendor to get a sale will really help, which means in effect, you are finding a discount. Although there is no discount, it's market value. However, there is an edge that you can find on there.
I thought the agent's mindset was actually getting a fee.
Yeah, interesting you say that. I mean, in my experience, estate agents have a bit of a bad name. Some of them, they're all the people I meet, they're very professional, and actually they work for you for free if you think about it. They're working for you. You're finding properties, and they do a good job for the vendor. Sometimes the vendors don't see that. It's all behind the scenes. I'm not saying there's also obviously people are people. However, it's a professional environment.
Estate agents?
No,
have you ever been an estate agent?
Have I been an estate agent? I'm not an estate agent. I'm an entrepreneur. Why should I be an estate agent?
Have you been? I'm just saying, have you been an estate agent? Because it's a really good grounding. Estate agency is a really good grounding, and if anyone can become an estate agent, even working Saturdays for free, it's a great experience, good apprenticeship. And certainly it's a really good way of getting in there and finding some deals.
It sure is, John, but you do have to be careful about the ethics here. I mean, obviously, an estate agent is...
ethics in estate agency?
Well, yeah, that's all right. But as Kam quite rightly points out, the estate agent is working absolutely for the vendor and would be chastised if he did anything else, because that's where the fee is coming from.
Yeah.
Now, as part of that duty, it's to find a buyer for their client, but they can't take fees from both sides, so that's a no-no. So it is only one side. It is only one side that they work for. And secondly, estate agents, in fairness to them, do get a lot of criticism, because how many times have you heard, well, crikey, all you've done is wandered round my house, walked somebody round, and you've earned yourself a several £1,000 fee. But
that's because the average estate agent only sells about 40% of the stock they have on the market. So you're right what you said, Kam. You are paying, if you're the vendor, you're paying for the properties that they don't sell. Because to put a property on the market, so we've got 5 offices, it's an upmarket brand, admittedly, but it costs us something like £4,000 to put a property on the market, when you add all the costs in and everything else. So you can see how, you can see how an estate agency works. Now, one thing I always do, and I accept the fact that at a buy-to-let market level, you may not want to do this, but we pay 2% finder's fee. And then people say to me, why do you get offered deals, John? I said, well, because I pay 2% finder's fee. I have done for the last 40 years. So, yes, you can go to an estate agent. You're not going to get a lot of discount. The market's very hot at the moment. One of the better ways is probably through auction, if you can organise yourself and get yourself organised, especially the properties that don't sell, the ones that are available afterwards. There's lots of different ways of buying. Whatever you do, you need a discount. There's no point going on a property portal and paying the full money for something. It's pointless. You want a margin to start with.
Yeah, so come back to the point. I mean, that's great. So estate agents, so I'm glad we're on the same page on that one. Estate agents, they do work hard. The good ones, and I know a number of good ones, they will work for the vendor. But what is working for the vendor? Is it, the highest price, and the person hasn't got a track record, or they haven't got proof of funds, or they're a little bit inconsistent with what they're doing, or someone comes along who's serious, might be a first-time buyer, that's okay, but they can show proof of funds, they can show ID, they perform and give the information as required, when required. They're easy to deal with. That is the way that you can get
Cam,
deals
you're still paying,
with estate agents.
Cam, you're still you're paying retail prices. You're not going to the shop. You're not going to the cash and carry. You're going to the shop.
You just told me you've got an estate agents, so you're aware of how estate agents work, right? So an estate agent will not necessarily go for the highest price. An estate agent,
no, but a
good estate agent will go for.
You're missing my point.
What's your point?
My point is that when you go to an estate agent to buy a property, yeah, that's retail. That's a retail. When you buy at auction or somewhere like that, it's more likely to be a trade price than a retail price.
Have you been to auction lately? They're going well over estate agent prices.
I used to own Auction House UK, so with 40 branches. So don't go telling me how the auctions work. And I've got a very good book on it, which you might like to read if you've got time. In fact, I'll send you a copy.
Send me a copy. I'm always learning. That's
good.
Okay.
That's
okay. However, I'm not talking about 40 years ago or the rest of it. I'm talking about what we're doing today. So today, we're at an auction today. While I'm sitting here, my team's at an auction right now. We're looking at auctions every time. Auctions right now are overpriced. It's a vehicle, I agree it's a vehicle, but we're addressing this point of how does someone get started? So all I'm saying is 88% of our deals come from estate agents. 88% of our deals are coming from estate agents. And when you're dealing with the estate agent correctly, you are going to get the opportunity to get a good price. So that is happening. Right now it's heat market, but you can still get them. We're living proof of this. The second thing is also not just to be looking at the upfront discount. John's quite right to talk about upfront discounts, but there's another way of doing it. So it's not just the discount, it's about how you can add value to the property. So specifically, if you're looking at, we do commercial, we do larger deals as well, but we also do smaller deals. Yeah. So it's wherever you are in your journey. So discussing residential, a residential house. If you've got a 2-bedroom house, where you've got a bathroom upstairs and that bathroom is big enough to become a bedroom, and by repurposing that bedroom and moving it downstairs and making that into a bedroom, in our country, although we discuss square meterage, let's be honest, we measure our properties, residential properties, by number of bedrooms. So by taking a 2-bedroom house and making it a 3-bedroom house, is a specific that our viewers can use, you have added value to that property.
But sometimes,
which in effect, what you've done is, in reality, it comes out to being a discount, and we're doing this all the time.
But Cam,
people can do this.
Cam, as an estate agent, if you have a downstairs bathroom, it's not as popular as a bathroom which is upstairs. So you've got to take that into account.
Of course you do. And well, I'm only sharing my experience. We've got valuations this week. We had valuations over last month. We've got a number of valuations going on, and the price point always goes up. And it might not be desirable in some areas, but in some areas it will be very acceptable.
Well, I think,
and you can make money this way.
I think the issue is here that you've got to look for value and perceive value in whatever you want to do with that property, haven't you? I think that's the end of it. Okay, John, we're going to move on to your question.
Yes.
Do the panel think that the recent increase in rent-to-rent schemes is a good idea, or do they think it will all end in tears? Now, I'm just going to explain to our viewers just very briefly what rent-to-rent is. And I think in essence it's this, that you as an entrepreneur will go to a house owner perhaps, you will offer to rent that property, but also seek permission to turn it into perhaps an HMO, multi-occupancy house, and rent it out again for a margin, for a profit. But of course, this is often tied to what they call option deals, which is you say, well, I'll do this, and I also want an option to buy it in 3 years' time, and we'll all get more money for it because I've turned it into an HMO and whatever.
So, absolutely.
But
well, first of all, there's all these so-called property educators who are peddling this type of thing. In the old days, it's called subletting, rent to rent. You're subletting. You're taking a lease off someone, and you're renting it out for more money, and you're creating a margin. And actually, if you've got no other way of starting in the property business, and it gives you positive cash flow, you could argue it's not a bad way to start. The problem with it is that you have to put it back into the condition it's already in when you take it. So although you're making a profit, you've got to make sure that when you hand it back, that it's in good condition. That's very important. I'm just in the process of negotiating a serviced let business where they want to take 10 of my purpose-built flats and rent them for 5 years off me for service letting, you know. But when I look at the figures, they're not a lot better than if I rent them all myself. So it's interesting. I'm not a great fan of it, but I can see why some people would start off their property journey in that way if that's the only thing they can do. What's your view, Stephen? Because you've seen a lot of this.
I think the real problems are these really. First of all, you're trying to enter a property market with very little capital.
Yeah.
Okay, which has got to be dangerous. But if I was the owner of the property, I'd be saying, well, how do I guarantee the rent you've promised me? How do I look at you, and how do I understand where that rent's coming from if you have rental voids, if you're not let 100%, etc. In the case of the deals that offer an option to buy at the end of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, all very well. How do I know you're going to be able to borrow the money or get the money to buy it from me?
Stephen, what amazes me is why would anyone enter an agreement like that anyway in 2, 3, 4 years'
But
time?
they do.
I know, it amazes me that they do.
Yeah, but I really do think that the issue is here, you know, whilst you can enter the property market, perhaps in partnership with somebody else, even with silenting or sleeping investors, it's very difficult to have a successful property company in whatever format without the proper capital and without the proper advice and support around you.
But Stephen, there are people who have started like that, and I'm sure Kam probably knows some, who have gone on and become very successful. So, you know, what I think what's wrong with the property education side of things in the UK is that some of the educators make out that anyone can do it. And not everyone can do it. Some people are much better at, you know, gardening than other people. Some people are much better at buying and selling property or buying cars than they are at property, or whatever it might be. And I think the biggest issue I have is that, you know, they tend to peddle the fact that anyone could do it and it's easy. And it's not easy, is it, Kam? It's not easy to do.
Well, it's not easy to do, but you can make it easy. And you're quite right. There are a lot of people that are talking pie in the sky.
Yeah.
And there are people that are actually sharing real experience.
Yes.
So, you know, as you do, I love assisting people in moving forward. But what I'm very conscious of is we will only share what we are doing right now. And you do want to test people. You do want to check
they're okay,
check what they're doing.
Yeah.
You also want to, you know, if you're talking about courses, I mean, you do some of them, don't you, as well?
I don't do a lot. I do some seminars and bits and bobs.
Me neither, but you know, we do it. I don't know about you, but for me, it feels good. Just because I made some money doesn't mean that I keep to myself. Why should I just keep that to myself? That knowledge I want to share. Anyway, my point is that you gotta work with the right people, and it ain't easy, but you can make it easy when you do it correctly and you learn from someone who's already done it.
Okay, Kam, well, that's all we've got time for. So, Kam, on that note of sharing your money, we're very happy to do that.
We're delighted.
All they're sharing the money, he's sharing the expertise.
Okay.
I share plenty of the money anyway. So
well, there we are. That's all we've got time for in this show. Thank you very much for watching. Join me again next time. Thanks to Kam Dovedi and John Howard.
Pleasure.
Their contributions. Good fun today. Lively conversations. See you next time.